Flatland is bicycle stunt riding on a 20-inch bicycle.
Flatland is the evolution of BMX.
We don't use any props, no ramps, no rails, no dirt jumps.
A lot of people call it BMX, but it technically is not. BMX is short for bicycle motocross, which is racing around a dirt track.
We're spinning around, we're jumping around the bike while it's moving forward or backwards.
It's basically rolling around on flat ground.
We're standing on the handlebars riding down the street.
Just using your bike and your body to perform maneuvers and stunts.
And that grew into an industry all its own, which is still growing today. Back in the late 70s, a handful of bicycle motocross pros began just doing little tricks and stunts on their bicycle in between races, and that just became a competition type of thing between them and blossomed into its own sport.
When I was doing it when I was 20 years old, no one knew what it was. It was more of a freak show or a spectacle, and they thought you were insane.
The 80s were a popular era for bicycle sports, and though Flatland didn't receive the fame and notoriety that BMX enjoyed, riders like Cash Reynolds and Brett Hadley embraced the unorthodox sport.
I was just getting out of breakdancing back when it was a fad in the 80s, and a couple of classmates of mine would bring their bicycle magazines to school, and they were getting into it, so it looked like fun, and they set me up with a bicycle, and I just took off from there. And
I started like most people just racing BMX, racing around a dirt track, but I always enjoyed showing off, doing wheelies, doing jumps. That was more appealing to me than just going fast on the dirt.
Riding for me was a lifestyle. I mean, if my bed was big enough, I would have slept next to my bike, probably.
We would get up and we would say, let's go ride, and we would literally ride for 3 or 4 hours, maybe go get some lunch, go hit 7-Eleven, relax for 20 minutes, and then we would go ride for 3 or 4 more hours.
His dedication paid off. Brett became so good that in 1986, experts considered him the #1 competitive flatland rider in the state of Oregon. During this time, Brett was part of the Bike Gallery Trick Team, a trio of riders that put on shows at Oregon schools and competed in sanctioned flatland events. Brett was featured in both U.S. and Canadian BMX magazines and appeared several times in newspapers throughout Oregon. Then, Brett's exceptional talent landed him a commercial spot for the soft drink Sprite.
It's remarkable because you spend that much time doing that on a bicycle and you almost feel more comfortable on 2 wheels than on 2 feet.
I can remember being a teenager and having to go to dinner out of the house with my parents once, and it was very uncomfortable for me to walk. I didn't have a stride. I wasn't used to walking. I was used to being on my bike all the time.
In 1990, at age 19, Cash used his dedication and exceptional talent to turn pro. By 1991, he was a top 18 and over expert class freestyle rider in the Northwest, making his living performing in shows and competitions throughout Western Washington.
The reason I got to be a professional and be a top competitor in the Northwest region was by being absolutely committed to it. It became my life, and I would ride 4, 6, 8, 12 hours a day.
Unfortunately for Cash and Brett, Flatland experienced a drastic drop-off in popularity in the mid-90s. High-impact sports like BMX vert riding, motocross, and skateboarding consume both media and public attention. And while Flatland hasn't regained much of its popularity in the years since, a handful of riders are doing their part to keep the sport alive. Every summer, Flatland riders gather in Portland, Oregon for a day-long jam session they call Enjoy the Trick. The event gives riders a chance to reunite with friends, show off tricks both new and old, and reflect on days past.
Well, now I'm 15 years older and 75 pounds heavier, so the competition and doing it as a profession and performing at shows isn't a dream of mine anymore. I've had my time. Now it's about getting together with the guys that I used to ride with and reminiscing about the old days.
I think a lot of the older guys like me are just happy to come out and do some of the old tricks in the bag.
It's just a chance for everybody to get out and have fun and hang out with each other, because like if we're all hanging out, like all the locals and stuff. There's about like 5 of us, maybe at the most, so it's fun.
Despite their efforts, events like Enjoy the Trick are far and few in between. And even though Flatland doesn't boast the lucrative endorsements and limelight of the more dangerous sports, Cash and the guys understand that every sport has its day in the sun.
Just like any other sport, just like any other art, music, things go through their cycles. So Flatland had its day, and now street riding and ramp riding is really coming up and taking its turn.
The more dangerous BMX sports, you know, the ramps and dirt get more exposure, and I think more kids tend to gravitate towards those.
It's too bad. It's probably the most difficult discipline for sure. You have to put in way more hours to get good at flat than you do the others. But it's kind of its own little subculture now, and it just doesn't get the coverage that the other kinds of BMX do.
It's out there, you know, that it is a hard sport to do, and it's a lot harder than most of the ramp riding and vert riding and all that stuff, so I don't think many people realize that.
Like most technical sports, Flatland struggles to hold the attention of random spectators. But these riders know that sometimes it takes a fellow enthusiast to appreciate the subtleties of the sport.
It's about the intricacies, it's about the body movements and the shifts of the balance. There's a lot of subtleties that go into it that as riders we all look for and appreciate.
The art form is definitely there. It always has been and always will. And yeah, like with many sports and many performing arts, there are a lot of elements of personal style.
I think there's a lot of comparison you can draw to like ice skating or you know, floor gymnastics. I think it has a beauty and a grace in the movement, and anyone can look at it and get some appreciation for it.
Your bike's your paintbrush and the ground's your canvas, and you just paint away basically. It is a form of art.
It's now been 20 years since Cash and Brett first stepped on a freestyle bike, and while Flatland probably won't grace the cover of Rolling Stone anytime soon, it's been their passion and simple enjoyment of the sport that has kept them riding throughout the years.
It's like anything that people get passionate about. You literally have dreams about it, you daydream about it.
It was almost an addiction. It was a drive. It was fun to the 10th power, definitely.
I don't know, it's just, that's it. That's just it for me. It's my life, you know, and that's like once you become part of Flatland, like it probably will never ever leave you.
It's kind of a funny little story. I actually got involved in the early 80s. It tells you how old I am, but I just was watching the Dukes of Hazzard, which is what makes it kind of funny, and I wanted to jump my bike because I couldn't drive yet, so I started riding BMX, but I wasn't very good at jumping, so I ended up becoming mostly a Flatlander.
The big thing is in the 80s, it went through kind of a phase where there was a lot of neon colors. They sort of tried to market it as an extension of like breakdancing.
It wasn't uncommon on competition days to ride with a bunch of the guys all day long, all night long, the night before the competition, and get no sleep, just be out riding and practicing together, and then ride all day through our competition, then do our competition run, and then after the competition day, then go home and sleep it off.